Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is episode 52 of my podcast, Brain Dribble, where there are so many fucking bugs trying to bite me all at once because I decided to get out for a little bit. I said, I want to be in nature. I want to be one with my inner chi. I want to find out where I came from. You know, this is just really what nature is just going back to Mother Mary, Mother Joseph. I don't think Mother Nature has a name. I think it's just green. And that's it. It's just green. You can go to nature and find out what's going on with yourself. You meditate in nature. I'm by a river. I'm thinking. It's metaphorical. It's a river of thoughts. It's magical. God, fucking shit. I hate mosquitoes. So I moved out. That's pretty cool. This is the first time I've ever not lived home for longer than college. Longer than four months at a time. So this is going to be interesting. There is a bag blowing on the wind. You try to get into nature and it's not really nature, but okay. I don't know what the fuck to talk about, so we're going to my notepad. So here's the truth about climate change. A lot of people think that by going vegan, you're like helping the earth or something. You're doing this holier than thou. You're on a crusade. You're on a crusade to change the planet, and it's starting by not eating beef. That's right. Once everybody stops eating beef, then no more cows will be there, and then there will be no more cow farts and methane gas to go up into the air, and then cows will be extinct, but they'll be natural, and you won't be eating them. And then that'll solve global warming. But what people refuse to admit to themselves is that there are far more... Motherfucker. What people refuse to admit to themselves is that there are more factors. I need to go into more remote locations after this, okay? What people refuse to take into account is that there are more factors that go into global warming, the biggest of which is overpopulation. So while you're sitting there and you're saying that going vegan is the solution, it'll lower your carbon footprint, if you're alive, you're hurting the earth inherently just by being alive. And the best way to change that for the better, is to kill yourself. That's right. Unless you're living on a self-sustaining farm run by manual labor and not powered machines, because gas is putting bad energy into the air. It's putting bad vibes up into the air. I think global warming is really just... It's not gases. It's not like omissions when you take something out. Omit something. It's not omissions. It's actually just a lot of bad vibes. If you put bad energy into the world, then the ozone will be smaller. If you just put out bad energy, you just got to put out good energy, and then it'll solve global warming. A lot of people think that global warming is caused by, emissions and gases and stuff. But really what it is just a bunch of bad vibes. Just stop being negative all the time, and then the ozone will rebuild itself because it'll have positive reinforcement. You can give it some love, literally. Put out the energy that you want to see the ozone repair itself with. Because how is anything supposed to get done? And if you're sitting there like, oh, we're killing the earth, if you think you are, you are. But if you don't think you are, then you can reverse global warming single-handedly, just with good vibes. All you got to do is put out the energy, manifest it, put out that energy into the world, and you will receive it. The ozone will become one again if you just think it will. Because the reality of the situation is that overpopulation is the problem. Like, we don't even agree on the root problem here. We're like, oh, killing animals and eating animals is, and using straws is bad for, no. Almost 8 billion people is what's wrong. There's so many fucking people. Like, if you truly cared about your carbon footprint, you'd kill yourself. But no, I like Chipotle. I like all the things that make me human. I like all the, well, then just live with the guilt. Don't try to pretend that you're doing something better than everyone. If you're alive, you're the problem, okay? Unless just don't have kids. Start with not, because killing yourself's a big thing. Just, you have an option to bring someone else into this world, and you know the consequences of overpopulation, and it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. But if you really cared, just don't have a kid. And if you gotta raise something, if you have to raise something, then adopt. But we've been over this. We know this is the problem. But vegans like to put guilt trips on it and be like, unless you're doing this, you're killing the earth. If you're alive, you're killing the earth. If you're alive, say it with me. If you're alive, you're killing the earth. Okay? So let's stop pretending we're better than other people just because we don't eat meat. The demand for it is still there, and when there are billions more people created I don't know, it's only going to get faster. When there are so many people that need to be fed, there's no other way to do it. There's literally no solution to global warming with this many people. So stop pretending you're better than me, because you're not. And on that note, I kind of want some Chick-fil-A. So yeah. So we know this is all bullshit. People go to Twitter and being like, I don't want to hear what any meat eater has to say. If you're eating meat, you don't care about, if you're alive, you don't care about the earth. If you have children, you don't care about the earth. Unless you live on a self-sustaining farm run by manual labor and not gas-powered machines, you're part of the problem. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to work on a farm. Then you don't care enough. Then you don't care enough is the thing. And so, yeah, unless you do that, I want to see how really committed you are to Mother Earth. Would you dedicate your life to it? I would. There's two options. You can dedicate your life to living on a self-sustaining farm, or you can kill yourself. But I don't want to do that. Then just admit and accept the fact that we're killing the earth. Because it's not changing. There's too many people. And that's it. That is the only thing that's killing the earth. And guess what? As we kill the earth, it will kill us. It did it with COVID, it's doing it with natural disasters, and it's only gonna get worse. So stop pretending. You're not saving the earth, neither am I. So we're just gonna sit here and chill the fuck out until we die or the earth kills us. There are so many mosquitoes flying around me. I hope that I don't wake up with a bunch of welts. Hey, look, a little ladybug. Oh, he fell on the ground. Ah, bitch. As long as they don't fly in my eye, I'm okay. But one just did. So, do you think Do you think people with like immune deficiencies and diseases that like make them fat get mad at people who are fat because they're just lazy and they like to eat? Like, do you think they kind of look at them like, you don't know what it's really like? Like, I don't have a choice. You have a choice. You're just addicted to food. Well, fucking change it. Do you think people who are bedridden and they just get fat? I mean, I don't think people who are bedridden get fat because they're in the hospital and they're eating hospital food and they're not gonna, what are they gonna get fat off of hospital food? It's gross. You'd have to have a real eating disorder to get fat off of hospital food. Because one, I'm sure they like ration it out or something. And two, it's just gross. It's, you like, oh man, I just want to have something in my mouth at all times. But do you think that people who don't have a choice feel like insulted by the people who do have a choice and they just don't? Like, if you're just sitting there because you can't move, do you look at someone who's sitting there and they can move, but they choose to sit there and they're kind of pissed? I would be. I'd be like, you don't know how good you have it. I'm sitting here in a bed until I die. There's this one dude that my friend keeps telling me about who got COVID and has just been on a ventilator for like 4 months. And he's just gonna die in the hospital. He's gonna die. But it's this weird thing where he's just gonna die. Like, he's just waiting to die. Some people just are waiting to die. And that's a terrible mindset to get yourself in. If you are just sitting there and you are wasting away, I mean, that's just like, I don't know, like, just stand for once. Because you can, is the thing. There are people who can't stand. So stand if you can. If you're listening to this right now and you're sitting, all right, sure, if it's in an office, you don't have to get up. But I'm talking to the rest of you who are listening to this sitting, okay? Stand up. And actually, like, I don't know, man. If you really wanted to make your life productive, you would get up and then like stretch or something. I don't know, do something. My golden rule of thumb is to create more than I consume. Meaning, I don't want to sit. If I'm sitting there like watching a podcast, I'm like, well, I could have recorded a podcast in that time. Like, at least spend more of your time making than watching. I mean, but that's not everybody's life goal, you know? This is not everybody's dream. I have a dream. This is my dream. You don't understand. I want to be able to do this. And so I'm trying. And it's not even about like being able to do. I am able to do this. I'm doing it right now. But like full time, I don't know, it's weird thinking about work and shit. And you're like, it's the yin and yang bullshit where you're just like, if I didn't have a job, I would probably just sit there for those 8 hours a day. You know, I got a classic old 9 to 5, you know? I got a good old job. And it's sometimes you get into this way of thinking where you're like, I'm just a slave to money for a third of my life. A third of my life is just spent for money. And then another third is spent sleeping. And so I'm left with one third of my time I'm left with. So like, what are you gonna do? Some days it's just like you think to yourself, when I get home, I'm just gonna go to sleep. But that is 1/3 of my time. There's a third of my time dedicated for sleeping. And what am I gonna do? Sit there and just cut into my life? I'm gonna use my life to do nothing? That's no fun. I I was going to go to sleep after work because I just got hit with a wave of like, oh, I'm just a slave for money. Oh, and I felt bad for myself. Feel bad for, and it would be so easy to just sulk in it and just sit there and be like, yeah. And then I go home and I just crash and I let those thoughts win, and I just sit there and I close my eyes and I play dead for a few hours, and then I wake up and it's 7 p.m. and then I have no day left, and then I go to bed, and then we start over. That's not a good cycle to get yourself in. If you can just be away, just be outside, go do something, be doing something, because you got a lot of time. You have more time than you realize. So don't waste that time. Don't. We're kicking off the sandals. We're flipping off the flip-flops. Flipping them off. But yeah, it's important to actually do things with your time, because if you ration it out like that and you're like, okay, 1/3 of my time is dedicated to sleeping, I don't have to worry about not getting enough sleep because there is enough time to sleep. And then there's work, which is the shit that we don't want to do, but we have to do. And then there's our free time, which is the yin to the yang. It's like, I hate work, but I love my free time. So what are you going to do in your free time that make you really appreciate it? And that is how I convince myself to stay motivated, even when it doesn't feel like I'm going anywhere. But I'm an artist. What can I say? I've always said I just want to get my bases covered, and then I want to do whatever the fuck in my spare time. And here I am doing whatever the fuck in my spare time. So I hope that is an interesting perspective for you to hear. I hope that puts some thoughts in your head, gets some balls rolling, and then you do something with that. Because I don't want it to be useless. I don't want my podcast to be useless. I just want I want it to I want to fucking, I feel like I lost my sense of play. I watched David Choe, the Choe show. It's like 4 episodes of this like sort of like podcast style thing where he like sits down and talks to someone. He talks to like 3 people per episode and like paints 2 of them and like really gets in deep and just puts a lot of emotion into his paintings. This is David Choe. He's fucking amazing. If you haven't heard of him, you should look him up. He needs no introduction from me, but if you haven't heard of him, definitely go look into him, because he's brilliant. He's great. And I don't know why just seeing his fucking house, and how it looks, it's like he's within his art. And I feel like I don't really live within my art. I feel like there's this person inside of me that is there, and I'm hoping that me saying this about myself is relatable to maybe you feel the same way. I feel like there's this person inside of me that wants to be free, that society or some kind of anxiety or something covers it up, but there's this wholesome human beneath all that, and people will tell you, I don't know where the anxiety comes from, but you don't want to let out your inner child. You want to like cover it up. And I feel like in that way I have completely lost my sense of play. I don't like, not that I don't feel free, but I feel like there's something I'm not channeling as much as I could be, because this is my dream. I'm an artist. I'm not being very artful by sitting here and doing a podcast. I mean, it's my brain dribble. I let my brain dribble, and that's the idea. I just let ideas flow. But hopefully you know what I mean by there's just this human, there's this child deep down that I don't know where he is. I don't know how to dig him up, and I don't know what. I call myself an artist, but I haven't drawn in 2 years. And my dad asked me this because Christmas is kind of bullshit. We all know that we get each other gifts, and I don't like gifts. I'm like, I don't need anything. So we kind of, the magic, the allure behind gifts has kind of faded. I don't want to have said that when there's a plane going overhead. It's like I want to get a clean take. When my dad asked me to draw our house that we sold, I was like, okay. And I could have drawn houses. I had an opportunity a while ago to work with a real estate agent that when they sold a house, I would draw the house. But I've drawn a few houses and it's not fun. So I guess what I am struck with now is an opportunity to figure out how to make drawing a house fun. I want to introduce a sense of play into my art, because I feel like when I would draw, I would only draw portraits. I would only draw pictures that already existed, and I would just copy it literally in a grid. Like if you know the grid method, you just kind of chop everything up into like 1 by 1 inch pieces, and then it's really easy to just draw it. But there comes a point, this is why I stopped drawing. There comes a point where that's boring as fuck. It's the same thing, cookie cutter every single time, and I need to figure out a way to. This is my opportunity. This is my way back in. You know, one of the things that someone said on the Choe show was that the first third of your life is spent making mistakes. The second third of your life is spent creating success or something, and then the third is giving back. So I feel like I've spent enough of my life making mistakes. I feel like I've spent enough of my life learning what to do and what not to do. And now it's time for me to really use my time wisely. This, in my opinion, is using it wisely. This is the loudest fucking place ever. I will go to more remote places in the future. I just didn't know where. And what I did was I left the house and I didn't have shoes on. I only had flip-flops. So I was like, okay, I can't really go on a hike. I don't feel like going back and getting shoes. But next time. Next time. But yeah, that's what the podcast will be. It's gonna be me in nature, just talking, and yeah, because I don't have that couch anymore. And also, it's just a little bit more interesting. I feel like it's better. I don't have to put music behind it as much because there's the sounds of nature behind me. And hopefully this isn't like brutally windy or anything. Hopefully all this audio is clear. But we're in a new experimental phase of the podcast because I had a space. I was very fortunate to have my studio space be in the basement, and my parents' rooms be 2 floors. Like there's the basement, the middle floor, and then an upstairs where their thing is. So I could be I was able to be as loud as I wanted. And now I'm living in a different situation where I don't feel as comfortable being loud. I feel like I could do podcasts from my car or something. I just places where I can be more loud and open than just in my room. I don't want to scream in my room. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. So here we are in nature recording the podcast. I've been kind of talking about nothing this whole time. I would like to get back to this topic. But you know what? No, I'm letting my brain dribble. That's what this is. So, yeah, that's the idea for the podcast. Is on weekends I'll go on a hike and I'll sit down somewhere and record. And yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. And also, I feel like I kind of fucked myself over with like using things that I've said on the podcast in anything else other than the podcast by putting music behind it. So I don't think there's not going to be any more music behind the podcast. It's just going to be the sound of nature. It's going to be the sounds of, what is it? The hills are alive with the sound of music. There's going to be the sounds of music in it. Yep. But yeah, I would like to be able to use clips from the podcast and flip it somehow into videos. This is the full version, and then we'll have the like cut up version where it's a little bit more artful. Because I don't know. I feel like I've lost my sense of play, and this is the experiment. Now we're in experimental phase of trying to rediscover that. So that being said, do you think that fat people are just I said, that being said, do you think people who are bedridden by force are pissed at people who are just depressed and they don't feel like getting their life together? I've spent enough of my time around people who just drag you down, and I'm no longer interested in doing that. There comes a point where there's a person hidden under all the mental illness, but you can only help someone so much. If they don't choose to fucking fix their life, I'm being vague, but it applies to everything. It's at some point, it just is who you are. At some point, there's just, you gotta give up because they know what they need to do in order to get their life back on track. I literally gave this dude a fucking list of things that he needs to do to fix his life. And yeah, he doesn't seem interested in fixing his life, so I give up. It's what it is. And that's fine. That's fine. My life will improve after he is out of it. Which is such a mean thing to say, but like, if you knew the situation, you'd be like, oh yeah, fuck this. It's gone on way too long. I don't know what that has to do with anything. That's just where my brain's at. Some people, you know, like, cause you want to believe that there's a person deep down underneath all that garbage that is displayed outwardly. The garbage is just, that's where it lands. It is shown towards others. It is the outward expression of just mental illness. And you want to believe that there's a good person underneath that. But at some point, it doesn't matter if it's intentional or it's not intentional. It doesn't matter if it's the mental illness or just like manipulation or some bullshit. You don't really know. It's at some point that just is who you are. And people will react accordingly. They can only help you so much. I left this dude with a list of how to improve his life. And if he doesn't feel like doing that, then I can't help him. So some people are just,
lost causes, and if they continue acting the way that they do, they will never get their life back on track. And it's sad. Yeah, it's sad. But what am I going to do? Sit here and just keep saying the same things over and over and over and over for a year? I give up. A year is my breaking point. I don't care anymore. From the day I met this dude, it's just been shit. So I'm sorry. I did all I could do. And it's okay to admit defeat if it's going to improve your life. It's good to admit defeat. You need an ego check, bro. Sometimes you need something really bad to happen to you to humble you. You need to, like, work a job without, like, the support of your parents. Like, the moment that you become financially responsible for yourself and financially independent, that's the moment you realize how much money's worth. And until that moment happens, which for this person, for this individual, it has not happened yet. And he's 23 and he's still being supported by his father. And there's nothing that you can't teach people how to realize the value of money. And it causes a lot of problems, because I used to, when I was in school or just in summer before I had a job, or even when I did have a job, but I didn't really have to, like, there was no threat of going broke. Like, now I'm more responsible for myself now. I have things that I have to pay for. And until that moment in your life where you have to pay for shit, you will be bored. You're more prone to being bored and just kind of sitting there and wallowing in your own shit. Because I would do that. I would wallow around in my own shit. Not literally, but just mentally. Just sit there and be like, what are people doing right now that I'm not a part of? I felt left out. And I felt left out for a long time. Every summer, I hated summer because I just didn't know what people did all day. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have a lot of hobbies. This is when I would get hyper fixated on hobbies. I would just draw all day, every day. And that would be what I do. I would draw all day, every day. And that was my life for like 2 years. And you can only do that for so long before you get sick of it. But I feel like now I definitely have a lot more balance in my life. Kind of shut down when people are near. I kind of shut down. Yeah. So I used to be super bored, and I would feel bad for myself. Oh my God. The moment that the way it worked for me is you could only be alone for so long before you realize how to make sense of the world around you. Because I was alone a lot of my life. I still am. And you need to build a system of things that you do to either kill time. Jobs kill a lot of time, and that's good. Because without that, if you would just sit there 8 hours a day, if you had 8 more free hours a day, free time would be so much less valuable, and you wouldn't appreciate it either. And this is just my way of making sense of the world around me. I'm like, okay, you gotta work, because if you don't work, if you don't go through some bullshit, you won't appreciate any of the, like, time you have for yourself. So you would end up being less productive with that extra time. Probably. Obviously there's exceptions, but probably. At least for me, I feel like I need to have something that keeps me responsible, and a job totally does that. It keeps you, it forces you to be responsible. Because I don't know, we need a system. We have school, we have all this shit. We need systems in our lives, and without them, we just become bored, and then we start feeling bad for ourselves. And I've felt bad for myself a lot of my life. A lot of my life has been spent trying to fill a void in any different area. I would play video games, I would get drunk, I would get high, all these things. I got really into the gym for a while, which is it's still trying to fill a void. Sex is trying to fill a void. And until you realize how to be comfortable mentally, you realize all that other shit is just external stimulus, and that's not how you are happy. Happiness comes from within, and we've been new about that. But happiness comes from within. So if you are feeling like one of those people, if you feel yourself getting into that, like, feel sorry for me type outlook on life, then that's like, you need to do some serious self-reflection and be like, that's not healthy. You need to admit defeat. That's the first step. Is like, first step of recovery is admitting that you are addicted, or like, the first step is just checking your ego and admitting that you're at fault. Because if you refuse to take any blame for where you are in your life, you will die a victim. If you think you're a victim, you will be a victim. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it only negatively impacts you, and maybe even more people, those around you. There's nothing more toxic in the long run than thinking it's everybody else and not you. It's you. And for some people, it takes a really tragic event. For some people, it takes medication. For some people, it takes therapy. For some people, it takes getting a fucking hobby, figuring out what you like to do. Because once you find something that you like to do that isn't drugs, that isn't externally filling a void, then you find something that is worth your time and it's productive. It makes you feel good. Exercise is so important. I can't tell you how many people I've seen just anecdotally. I cannot tell you how many people I have seen who are depressed and sad, and they never, ever exercise. I could be better. I admit it. I'm not like a gym rat. I used to be, but I definitely am more active than most people. It will make you happier. And once you sacrifice that little part of your ego that protects you from any guilt, from any responsibility for your own whereabouts in your life, once you let go of that pride, once you set that aside, once you put your pride aside and admit that you can change your life, that's the first step. That's the first step to improving your life. And that's the first step to caring about yourself enough to want to change. Because I've done some personal growth things in the past. I've done some irreversible things that have changed my life. Number one was purposely getting banned on RuneScape. I was addicted to RuneScape like it was a constant drug, it would just pull me back in through every step of my life. From ever since the moment I made my first account when I was 8 years old to the moment I got banned last year, I was so addicted to RuneScape, it just kept sucking me back in. It would consume summers. There was one summer where all I did was wake up and mine in the living rock caverns in RuneScape. And I would just sit there and I would mine. I would sit there and just on the couch, I had my little depression corner where I would just sit there with a laptop and click. That's all I did for a whole summer. And that's what killed my time. And you can only do that for so much of your life before you start to fucking hate yourself, because it's this dopamine rush of XP and you're like, oh yeah, I'm making progress in my life. No, you're not. And you need to know that, like, because there's always that voice in the back of your head that you keep ignoring that says, yeah, you're not doing anything productive right now. And so oftentimes you know it, but you just keep fighting that voice that says this is bad because the addiction is more fun to you than it's worth changing. So once you hit that point, sometimes I don't know what has to happen. You have to have like an aha moment. You have to like go to therapy. You have to fucking work on yourself in order to realize like physically what you can and can't do to make yourself feel better about living. So once I got banned on RuneScape, I was like, okay, I don't feel the need to play any video games at all. I'm like, RuneScape was the only game that there was for me. It consumed 450 days. I have 450 days of playtime on RuneScape on one account. That's not even considering all the other games that I've played. It's not even considering how many other accounts I had. 450 days on one account. And I looked at myself. I said, I have spent over a year of my life on this game. What could I have done with that time that would have brought me to a better place? Literally so much else. The first third of your life is spent making mistakes. I'm ready to move on. And so I just started auto-clicking. I broke the rules on purpose. I did it for months before they like 3 strikes and you're out. I got banned once. I kept doing it. I got banned again. I was like, when will they get a fucking ban? And then they finally did. And it was the most bittersweet goodbye ever, because for a few months I was living the dream. I was fucking rich. I was selling money, actually. I made like $90. I sold some RuneScape gold. And I was planning on doing that until I just had money. But once I finally got banned for the last time, for life, banned for life, I felt free. I was like, this is the moment that I've been waiting for. I could not force myself to quit, so I forced them to make me quit. Because what am I going to do? Start a new account? 450 days. I'm going to start a new account. I will know in my head that's the stupidest shit ever. I won't even go near it. So video games are done. I mean, I've been thinking about trying to like make videos doing like a single game at a time. I just play one game and like edit highlights or some bullshit. But like, other than that, I'm done. I'm done with video games, and that has set my life on a better track. I feel better about myself with a podcast, with doing these things, making videos. It is still like a way to kill time, but it's productive, and it's expression, and it's art. And until you figure out how to care about yourself enough to fix your life, then your life will continue to be shit. And yeah, I guess that's about it. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate you. If you enjoyed, feel free to share it with someone who you think might also enjoy it. And until next time, I'm Tyler, and this is my brain leaking at you, you know? All right. Goodbye.